Hello, everybody. If you can hear me, can you please write plus in the chat? Except Nuray. Right. Yes. Yes, thank you, everyone. I welcome you to our webinar, Who is the Financier? This event is conducted by Kazakhstan Finance Student Association, and I'm Biba, sophomore at Nazarbayev University and Vice President of KFSA. Before others are connecting to our webinar, let me introduce you with today's agenda and our club. This event is intended to help students get helicopter view of finance industry and get to know successful and new alumni who work as financiers. In the first 30 minutes, our team will help you to differentiate finance and economics. Also dive into various career paths in finance industry. Next 30 minutes, we will interview Adiya Makhambetova, a new Mass 2017 alumni who is currently working at Fidelity Investments in US. Other 30 minutes, we will interview Adlet Kamzinov, a new Econ 2015 alumni who is Senior Associate Auditor at General Electric. Before we start, let me introduce you with KFSA. KFSA was established in 2017 by two ambitious students of Nazarbayev University. Our motto says, investing in people, from which you can notice that we believe in human capital. Therefore, Kazakhstan Finance Student Association has been conducting various guest lectures with famous professionals, courses in partnership with Bureau of Continuing Professional Development at Astana International Finance Center. Also, KFSA organized biggest case championship in this region. Overall, 17 countries and more than 1,000 students participated in the championship. So we still have 21 attendees. If you have any questions about KFSA, you can ask them now. By the way, we are becoming really active on social media. So I recommend you to subscribe to our Instagram, Telegram, and Vkontakte. Furthermore, early deadline of recruitment to our club finishes on 30th of August. And we'll also have late deadlines. So if some of you want to join, please join us. Okay, it's already 6:40. Let's start. Let's first differentiate finance and economics. I believe that you already know that finance is a part of economics. Therefore, it is easy to understand that economics has more general approach and theoretical view on issues, while finance has more practical and has more practical approach. Economics study relationship between different economic agents, such as individuals, governments, firms and okay. All of this, if there's some freshmen, all of this you learn on intro to microeconomics and macroeconomics. But the main thing you should know is that if you love economics, you can become a teacher, a researcher who studies GDP, inflation, growth rate, or you can become strategist in Ministry of Economics, or a forecaster, or a statistician. Also, some economists do budget analysis. However, I think finance is more interesting stuff to do, because Financier can have more impact on daily life of a company. Doesn't matter, is it strong or is it big or small. Financiers do financial management and planning. They count assets and liabilities. Also, they do financial analysis and quantitative analysis, and they're in charge of accounting and risk management. Some real professional, real qualified professionals do investing and attract investments. So this is all that I wanted to say about difference between economists and financiers. Now, our team, Nuray and Nurjan, will continue the webinar.
Okay. Hello, guys. I'm Nuray. So today I will be talking about career paths in the finance industry. So as you can see here, financial services industry is divided into four main categories. There are banks, institutions, public accounting firms, and the corporates. So let's start from banks. Banks are mostly referred as dealers or sell sites, and as the name says, it is involved with the creation, promotion, analysis, and selling all possible securities. Whereas institutions is referred as buy side, and as you can already say, it's basically buying securities for money management purposes. So the next one is public accounting firms. Hopefully all of you already know by the name accounting. It prepares financial statements, tax returns, and advising them on transactions to their clients. And the last one is corporates. So corporates is basically companies issuing public securities. So the next one, now I will be talking about banks. As I have already mentioned, it's referred as sell side, and it's divided into four main roles: investment banking, commercial banking, sales and trading, and equity research. So I want to start from investment banking and the commercial banking. Most of the people are still in confusion between these two bankings. So I just want to have just a little bit helicopter view here. So investment banking helps governments, institutions, and the corporations to increase capital, advise on mergers and acquisitions, and issue securities. So the main difference between those two is investment banking is more focused on large-scale businesses. That's why it helps with this type of services that commercial banking cannot afford. So commercial banking, as most people know what bank is, because in Kazakhstan, it's almost all banks are commercial banking. So it provides clients with credit products, deposits, safeguard assets, and delivers financial advice and solutions on businesses, such as like buying new equipment, funding work capital, and just like simple day-to-day banking services. And the next one is sales and trading. So sales and trading is the simplest one, because hopefully all of you know what sales is and what trading is. And it helps mutual funds, hedge funds, pension funds, all different funds to facilitate equities transactions. So from buying to selling, from selling to buying. And the last one is equity research. Equity research develops research coverage of public companies. And I also included here data interpretation of a stock. So basically they research on stock, what was the past of that stock, and compares it with current stock price. Is it like increasing or decreasing? And provides them to their clients. So equity research closely works with investment banking, and requires a lot of quantitative analysis skills. So I just want to talk a little bit about entry and exit positions here. Investment banking, as we all know, it's a most desired work for all people who are willing to enter financial world and apply for new positions. So it is tough to get into investment banking because the salary is also high here. And most of the people prefer, after graduating from high school, after having their undergraduate bachelor degree, they go to commercial banking and then move to investment banking. Okay, next, Nurjan, please.
Biba, for a great introduction. So the next are institutions, which are the buy side of the industry. The buy side means that a firm is involved in buying stocks, bonds, derivatives, and other securities from a sell side. Now, let's imagine that you have $1 billion and you don't know where to invest them. Probably you are thinking about making a deposit into a bank account or buying real estate. At the same time, you might know that there are more attractive investment opportunities like stocks, bonds, and other securities, but you lack expertise and time to select and invest on your own. In this case, you can refer to a portfolio manager who selects and oversees investment and maximizes your expected return. Or if you believe in real estate or in future of ambitious startups, you can refer to a private equity manager with your 1 billion, and they will definitely help you invest in leveraged buyouts, real estate, funds, or venture capital. Besides that, there are also people who provide investment recommendations based on research, thereby making the most effective use of your money. You can enter one of these institutions as analyst from investment banking, or after having a master's degree in business administration. So the next is corporates. Corporates are issuers of public securities. Right, could you please switch to the next slide? Thanks. So corporates are the issuers of public securities. And first of all, corporate is a large company, such as Microsoft, for example. And corporate structure can be represented as a tree. And on the top of that are owners of the corporate, then goes board of directors, and then managing team. So imagine that you work in financial department of a corporate, and you entered as an analyst. Then you moved up to being a manager, director, vice president, and now you are an owner of the corporate, one of the owners. And now you want to increase your money. You can do that by issuing securities, which will be bought by shareholders, or by buying another small companies, which is called acquisition. To organize it, there are different managers for executive or executing mergers and acquisitions, who are providing financial analysis and managing cash and risks. Now I give word to Nrai to explain public accounting firms.
Okay, thank you so much, Nurjan. And the last one is public accounting firms, and this is the easiest one for me and for probably all of you guys. And public accounting firms, I mean, like, let's just make it easier and try to imagine that a huge company wants to have some accounting services and do not have professional people in this area to do some accounting services, and they might need some help from accounting firms and to be more precise and to have properly written statements, financial statements, and they might need a transaction advisory here, because transaction advisory helps organizations evaluate and navigate corporate transactions in services such as business modeling, mergers and acquisitions, and valuations. Here, valuations is most likely referred to as accounting valuations, and these services are not so straightforward to have. So that's why they might need help from accounting firms. And the next one is due diligence. They act on behalf of acquirers of companies, so performs financial due diligence. So they make sure that everything is good, like correct, and properly. They make sure that everything is double checked, and especially pays attention to financial statements and the overall financial health. And the next one is valuations. Valuations here, it provides valuation services both for public and private companies, and most likely they focus on intangible assets, so especially goodwill impairment and the purchase price allocation. And for public accounting firms, especially in valuations, people usually start from, especially after Nazarbayev University, they start from audit. So after audit department, they move to analysts for probably 2-3 years, and then go to valuations. And the same thing here in transaction advisory and the due diligence is you just move up by their career path. Okay, so the next one is I will be talking about skills to acquire for beginners, especially if you're in foundation or in first year, you're a freshman. So you can have, you can start to enhance your knowledge in Excel. As probably all of you already know what is Excel. It is used to create grids of text, numbers, and formulas specifying calculations. Excel is needed in all areas, not only like in finance, in like all probably specializations. And next is accounting fundamentals. So basically, accounting is needed, especially needed for public accounting firms, but also required for other categories of corporate finance. And it's a process of recording, summarizing, analyzing, and reporting financial transactions of a business. And the next one is the vital one that everyone has to know, and probably already start to have some courses, and probably in Coursera. It's financial modeling. You can also have some you can also start your course in CFI, which is a Corporate Finance Institute, and it's a summary of a company's expenses and the earnings in the form of a spreadsheet. So you basically have a spreadsheet and write down everything, like what kind of expenses they had for that year or earnings, and by having that spreadsheet, and they can anticipate what might happen in the future. So that's why you might need financial modeling for your financial career in the future. So now?
Yes, we have 5 minutes, guys. If you have questions for us about specializations and difference between economics and finance, you can ask them now, because after, in 5 minutes, we'll start the interview with Adiya Makhambetova. Okay. Great question, but mundane task, it's difficult to say like that there's a mundane task in finance. Every specialization does his own job. For example, accountant, he works with transactions, and what's transactions? It's just some operation of maybe purchase, maybe sale, and other things. So according to your specialization, you have adequate tasks. However, as we put accounting on the presentation, it is needed everywhere. So yes, some specializations need accounting on different levels, but accounting is needed to understand financial modeling, and financial modeling is needed for venture capital to model startups. It is needed for real estate, also for modeling, and needed in mergers and acquisitions, because mergers, they merge two companies and they become one, for example, to produce better production, to make better production. Or acquisition, for example, Facebook bought WhatsApp. Some great financiers have calculated how much WhatsApp costs, and due to those financiers, Facebook had an opportunity to buy WhatsApp for proper price. By proper, I mean fair, which is not too expensive or too cheap. So in general, I'd like to say that every career in finance, it is prestigious, and financiers get paid lots of money. However, they have they have a lot of work to do. So 2 minutes left. If someone has a question, please hurry. Okay. Okay. And now let me introduce you to Adiya. She's our guest, and nice to meet you, Adiya.
Hi, Biba. Nice meeting you as well. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. As everybody, you already know, she's our alumni. She has master's from Boston University and bachelor from Nazarbayev University. So, Adiya, can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here because I wasn't staying in touch with the university, so I guess that's a good way to give back. But yeah, initially I studied at NIS, the School of Physics and Math, and then just like always was fascinated by mathematics, so wanted to study it again. Went to NU, got my bachelor's, and then came here to Boston. So now I'm dialed in from Boston. It's like 9 a.m. here, morning time. Came here for master's in mathematical finance program, graduated with honors. You can see everything on the slides that Biva prepared so kindly. And then started working at Fidelity Investments. And now I work as quantitative equity researcher. So that's my story.
Amazing. How did you choose your major? Was math your dream?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I would say from my very childhood, I was like in love with math. When I was in high school, I was participating in different research projects and like different Olympiads and stuff. But then I don't know about now, but like 7 or 8 years ago, there was no clear career path envisioned for people who go and study math. So my friends or like, I don't know, like relatives, they would kind of joke around and they would be asking me, oh, like, if you want to study math, who are you going to be? Like, what are you going to be? Are you going to be a teacher in the public school? Like, what's your career going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was really frustrated and I was really stressed. And initially I wanted to come here to the US for a bachelor's degree. So I was taking tests like SAT and IELTS and SAT subject. And because I already had all those tests, my mom, she kind of suggested me that I apply to NU as well for direct admission. And this is what I did. And so I was admitted as a direct student, but initially I was applying into SHSS, into economics department. And that's where I got admitted. Just because, I don't know, I'm very hopeful that now this misconception in Kazakhstan has changed, but before it was like studying mathematics was the only way out from studying mathematics is being a teacher in public school. But for people who study economics, there are like a lot of different career paths that they could take. And so initially I was admitted into SHSS, and then on my third day of studying, like it wasn't even a week, it was like third day, Wednesday. And I went to Kira Daricheva, who was the chair of maths department back then. And I was like, listen, I cannot do that anymore. It's been 3 days in SHSS. I do not belong there. I applied for wrong major. I want to be maths major. And so basically like on my first week, I transferred from econ to math. And I studied statistics and I studied applied math. And I always wanted to apply my knowledge somewhere, so to see tangible results. A lot of my friends, for example, they went into like PhD programs, but that was not something for me because, as I said, I wanted to see something tangible. And so when I was graduating, I was choosing between biostatistics and maths finance. And I didn't know anything about finance back then, just because even at NU, I don't know about now, but back then we didn't have any finance classes whatsoever. We even didn't have this club that you have now, which is great. And so, yeah, I guess blindly, somehow it felt in my heart that I should choose maths finance. And they also gave me scholarships, so it kind of all aligned together. Boston is amazing. I love Boston. I mean, that's like the perfect city for me. So I decided to go with this program, and that's how I ended up studying maths finance at BU.
Oh, really a long story.
Yeah, long story. Sorry, guys.
No. Long story. You had highs and lows, but you didn't go down and.
Yep, didn't give up.
Yeah. What kind of extracurricular activity did you participate in?
So when I was at NU, I would say I was somewhat social. So first of all, my friends and I, we opened SIAM chapter, this chapter of applied math at NU. I think it's still active.
Yes.
So I was on board of that chapter for a while. And then I was in the, what it's called, like university fund budget committee. So was there on the board as well when like the university would give you money and then you as a board decide to which clubs and like how much you have to give in a certain year. So I was doing that. And also for a year, I was leading this social club, which is called Youth Parliament Astana. I think in Russian it's like Молодежный парламент Astana. So
Yes.
I was leading that club for a year or 2 years. I forgot now. So those are the only like extracurricular activities that I've done, but I think it was enough. And I also wanted to concentrate on a little bit like different things. I mean, it depends on where you see yourself professionally, but the rule of thumb is like never get too involved with social activities only. You want to have them, but to a certain degree. You also want to have a little bit time left to invest in taking the tests, getting good subjects, going through internships, just like making your resume strong altogether.
About resume, did you have any internships while studying at Nazarbayev University?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say I had 2 internships. One was like absolutely useless, but I'm happy that I did it because it was on my resume. So initially when like you were applying into grad school, they asked for your CV. And I think that was the only time when I had that internship on my CV, just because then I got like other stuff and I replaced it. But yeah, I've done one internship with, oh my God, I don't know the name in English, but in Russian it's like NPP, Национальная палата предпринимателей. And so basically like I didn't learn anything throughout the, I don't know, what was that, 2.5 months there. It wasn't like, I didn't like it at all, but I mean, it just was something to put on my resume. And another internship, which actually was really useful, was with KPMG. So what happened initially when I was admitted as a direct student, I also wanted to graduate in 3 years, not 4 years. So I was taking like summer classes, and then I was on track, and actually I could graduate in 3 years, but the school said no, because as we are like getting scholarships from the university, we have to be full-time students for the period of 4 years. And so on my 4th year, I didn't have much classes left to take. And so what I did, I went again to the chair of maths department, and we agreed that in the spring semester of my 4th year, I would be working full-time. And so I got a job with KPMG, with their management consulting department. So initially, because I didn't have my diploma for like 5 months, I think, until graduation. From like January to May, I was an intern on paper, but like I was doing all the work that consultants are doing as well. And then once I got my diploma, they signed me as a consultant. So I worked as a full-time consultant for a few months. And then I think it was like 2 weeks before I started this program, I gave them my letter. So like my resignation letter, I said that I'm leaving to the US. And it was a helpful experience overall, because that was real work. Like that was real work. Working in consulting is amazing in Kazakhstan. I think it's like one of the best jobs you could get, just because the company is international, so they have international standards. And then the reason why they hired me, even though I didn't have my diploma, is because they needed someone who can do math modeling for them. So I was working for like the largest gas company in Kazakhstan, and like preparing regression models for them to analyze gas consumption across different regions in Kazakhstan. And so that gave me like real life experience. And doesn't matter whether you're working in like KPMG or like any big 4 top 3 companies in Kazakhstan or like in the US, they're still considered to be the same company. So when you're applying for jobs, it looks really great on your resume, and you have real world experience that you could be talking about. And also this kind of helped me to understand that I don't want to work in consulting, just because like initially I thought, oh, I'm going to apply to McKinsey when I graduate, or like, and then I think the year I was living, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, they opened their office in Kazakhstan as well. But then after like working for 8 months full time with KPMG, I understood that I do not see myself in consulting for a long time. And anyways, I was leaving for my master's program. But that was a great experience. I would suggest anyone to try it. And I mean, I know only a few people who did the same with me. They started working full-time before they graduated. It's not something very common, but if you want to try it, you have to ask, right? So just go talk with the chair of your department, talk with your professors. And also I would say, you have to be very strategical about your future. So I had two options. One option would be just like taking classes. And of course, like I would take like all the easy classes, right? Because like who wants to work hard in their last semester of college? That's what my friends were doing. And I could take like easy classes and then I could graduate with honors from Nazarbayev University, because I think I needed like 0.01 or 0.02 to graduate with honors. So I could concentrate on that. Or I could get a job with one of the world's largest consulting firms and get that on my resume. And so I thought, like, your GPA, it's something that is needed only when you're applying into grad school or your first job. After that, no one is asking about your GPA. Like, believe me, I changed job twice. If you're applying into grad school, everyone would be asking about your grad school, but like no one cares about your undergrad. So yeah, I could get my honors, and maybe that would look great on my diploma, and like my parents would be proud of me for like, I don't know, 2 months, and they would hang out that diploma on the wall. Or I could get a job, full-time job with KPMG, and that's going to be on my resume forever. And because of that, I will be able to get a job in the US. So I had to think strategically, and I chose the second option, and I'm very happy that I did that.
Yes, guys, studying 30 academic credits is already hard. Probably you studied more, so it's so adorable. Why did you choose mathematical finance? I think you had many options.
Yeah, initially I was choosing between biostatistics and math finance, just because, again, I wanted to like apply my knowledge somewhere. And biostats was really interesting to me because my dad, he's a doctor. And so when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a doctor, but then as a teenager, I understood that that's not the best profession for me, but I also really loved math. And it was like, I mean, just like, I guess naturally math is kind of easy for me. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to do biostats. So I'm going to be on the edge between mathematics and medicine. And financial math was just like something like, I don't know, it's such a sexy job, I would say. Like, I don't know about Kazakhstan, but in the US, everyone wants to be a quant. And if you ever seen any like movies about the Wall Street, quants are the ones who are like the main characters. They're the ones ruling the floor, making all those like crazy models that choose where the money should flow. And so I just really wanted to work with real money. I found that very appealing, that because of my mathematical knowledge, I'll be able to create models that would like allocate real dollars. So let's say I have a model and it says that I should have a portfolio, and like, I'm just making this up, but like 10% of my portfolio should be invested in Apple, another like 8% in Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know if you can go any more tangible than that. Like, you're actually investing someone's money using your models. And I thought that's really cool. And I always wanted to be in quantitative research. I saw that here in your slides, you were talking more about accounting. So I just wanted to work like with real money. And I'm not a traditional financier because like I never studied accounting or corp finance. But we're using the, what are those called? Like income sheets and balance sheets and everything produced by accountants in order to create our models. So one of you was talking about valuations, right? But there are like several valuation metrics, like price to earnings, price to book, price to tangible book. So we're using all these metrics as factors in our models. And then based on these factors, we screen the universe of like US stocks, international stocks, whatever the universe is you're looking at. And that's how we understand which companies are cheaper, which companies are more expensive, like where you should invest money.
So our guest Anwar asked, what do you do at your job as quantitative?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think about it. Okay, I have three main responsibilities. The first one is to do my own individual research. So, for example, I'm a quant researcher, right? So what we are doing, do you guys know about fundamental research? Because fundamental research is more down your alley. So fundamental research is when, let's say we work in equities, akции, akции, stocky, equities. That's where I work. So a fundamental analyst, he or she has like 20 or 30 names to follow. By names, I mean stocks. It's simple. Let's say it's only like two names that they are following, Microsoft and Apple. And so what they're doing every day, they're waking up and like they're reading the news about these companies. And they look at those companies, those are public companies. So they report their earnings quarterly. So they look at their quarterly reports, look at their operating income, their book, their debt, how much debt, how many like equity shares that have, what were their earnings, all these different metrics. And based on those metrics and based on the history that they have for this particular stock and based on their knowledge of the industry, they come up with ratings like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which basically mean whether you should buy or you should sell a company. And then portfolio managers use these fundamental ratings in order to decide whether they want to invest in these stocks or they want to sell those stocks from their portfolios. What quantitative analysts, what I'm doing, we're looking at the market holistically, just because we have all this data and we have math skills, we can program, we can create regression or like AI or ML models. We look at the market holistically. So instead of concentrating on 20 companies only, we look at all of them. So if I'm working in US universe, I would choose US index, something like S&P 500 or like Russell 1000, Russell 3000. I don't know if you studied or you've heard about that, but those are the indices. For example, S&P 500 is the index that has 500 companies in the US, exactly. And so it represents the US market because it has 500 names in it. Russell 3000 is an index again, but instead of having only 500, it has 3,000 of the largest US companies. So Russell 3000 is a great index because it represents the US market really well. S&P 500 is concentrated on like mega caps and large caps because it's 500 largest names, right? And Russell 3000, it has extra 2,500, so it has more names. What we do, we look at the data for these stocks and we come up with research. For example, I don't know, I'm trying not to give away my real research because then I'll be in trouble. But for example, do you know about momentum, guys? So momentum is one of the great factors. And I want to create a model based on momentum that would look at this like 500 names in S&P, and it would tell me in which names I should invest and which names I should sell. And so I have that model and I test that model over time, right? I have like 20 or 25 years of data. And so I rebalance my portfolio. It's a dealer's choice, but let's say I rebalance my portfolio every month. So every month I'm rerunning my model because I have 1 extra month of history. And I would come up with my portfolio. And so over the like 20 years, I have a 20-year-old portfolio. And then I'm looking at its performance. I'm looking at like how much it returned over any particular year, what's the total return, what's the compounding return, blah, blah, blah. And so I present this model to my team and they say, oh, Adiya, it's a great model. Let's try it out. And so for the next like year, we will be trying this model. It's called out of sample performance because the model that I created, it is in sample, right? I'm using historical data for that. And of course, because it's in sample, it would provide great results for me because it was based on this data, and if tested on the data it was built on, it would produce great results. But you want to see out of sample performance. Out of sample performance is when you test your model on the data that wasn't included into the training of the model. And so usually out of sample performance is like 1 year of extra data. So I see how the model performs on new data for a year. And then if it performs really well, my manager says, okay, this is a great model, we love it, we're going to make it a product. So then we sell it to our clients, and our clients buy it. And due to this model, they make up their portfolios. So that's kind of research we're doing. Of course, it was like really simplistic. It's more involved than that, but just in layman terms, that's one of my responsibilities. And the products we are working on. So do you know about mutual funds? Do you know about active investing?
Yes.
Yeah, so portfolio managers, they actively manage funds. So like every day they look at the ratings of fundamental analysts, and then they decide in which names they should invest. And also, let's say a portfolio manager really loves Microsoft. He thinks that Microsoft will go up 30% in the next year. So his portfolio is going to be like heavily concentrated in Microsoft. That's active investing. But passive investing is when you create models and algorithms that actually invest for you. So this is what we're doing. We're creating algorithms, passive models that are investing on behalf of our clients. And a good example of our work would be ETFs, exchange traded funds. So like one of my projects now is to create a new ETF, kind of, maybe, if it performs well. But that's just like something we work on. And another responsibility that I have is to support portfolio managers. So when PMs need any help, they would reach out to me or one of my colleagues and like ask us to look at their portfolios and say like, if their portfolios look good on the risk report, whether they should buy any other names, whether they should sell any names, if like they need to drop some names because those are highly volatile, what would be the suggestion for us? Like we would say, okay, you have to sell Apple, but buy IBM instead, or something like that.
So your modeling is different from regular financial modeling?
Yeah, it's very different. It's quantitative. So the modeling you're talking about, the Financier work, that's more like for accountants, I would say. But I mean, like fundamental analysis is, so we're using the metrics that are provided by financiers, right?
Like coefficients, yes?
Yeah, like as an accountant, for example, you would, so have you ever seen income statement or balance sheet? Yeah, so for example, there are several metrics, for example, operating income. So who is the person who calculates operating income? That's the accountant, right? Yes. And then it's audited by the audit firm. Or a good metric would be like revenue. Who calculates revenues? I think before we joined, you guys were talking about expenses. So at the end of the year, they look at their income, like how much money they made, what are their profits, and they also look at their expenses, and then they subtract their outflows from their inflows, and that's how you have the revenue, like how much they made throughout the year. So we are not calculating those numbers because those values, they're calculated for us by accountants, right? And they're in the income statements, in the balance sheets. What we're doing, we're using those numbers provided by every company in order to rank those companies and create our models. So those values, they're the inputs into our models. And I would say like accounting is very important, especially if you want to do fundamental research. So definitely like continue doing what you are doing. But as a first job, I think it would be cool to, if I know in Kazakhstan it's hard to get a job in investments, but at least like try to go into big 4 companies, and they have like deals and M&As. I forgot the name of the department. So they have like, one is consulting, another is audit, another is legal, and the fourth one, I forgot the name, but they're the people who are like concentrated on everything you were talking about, like mergers and acquisitions, on valuations, on different deals. So I think that that's a really like good job if you want to be a financier. or go in the world of like corp finance and learn the ropes there, and then do whatever you want to do.
So looking at the chronology of your resume, I saw that you got this internship while studying at Boston University,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. That is very typical. So even now, being undergrad students, what you guys should do, you should do at least one summer internship. Just because even if you're applying into grad school, they want to see if you've done any internships. What it basically tells to the school and to your future employer is that instead of having tons of leisure time throughout the summer, instead of like sleeping until noon, having coffees with your friends, going to watch movies, you were working hard. You were waking up at 6 a.m. every morning. You were going to the actual office, or I guess, yeah, you were going before COVID time to the actual office. You were doing some extra tasks. You were learning something. So like you were working hard in order to make your resume stronger. And it actually teaches you something. Even if it's not the job of your dreams, you will learn something. And so definitely do at least one internship, better two, and try to get really good internships. Because then if you want to apply into grad school, or when you're looking for a full-time job, everyone wants to have a candidate who has at least one internship. So do internships, yeah. And to your question, I've done an internship when I had summer break. So again, usually masters in the US, they're 2 years, but my program, it was 1.5 years. So it was like expedited. So we graduated half a year earlier than we should have, because like everyone was taking crazy amounts of coursework. And so what we did, like me and my friends, and I mean, everyone was trying to get an internship over summer. So I got an internship, and then because I guess my manager back then liked my work, he offered me to stay full-time with the company. And so before I went back to school, I had my full-time offer. And this is very typical for the US. If you do a really good job as an intern, they would ask you to stay with them full-time. And so I signed my full-time offer, went back to school, graduated. And when I graduated, I started working full-time with the same group where I interned. But I always wanted to be on the investment side. So that job, it was in risk. And I wanted to be in investments. And I just didn't know like what asset class I should choose. So someone was talking about that is fixed income, right? So I could have done like quant research in equities, or I could have done quant research in fixed income, or like in multi-assets. This is when you look at both equities, fixed income, cash, whatever. Or I could have become a, I don't know, credit quant. So I didn't know what asset class I should choose. That's why initially I wanted to work for a group that like looks at all of them. And when you work in risk, then you have to deal with all asset classes. And so I worked for like, I think 7 or 8 months in risk department. And then that's how I understood that I want to be in equities, just because like I've tried all of them throughout the projects that I've had. And then the position opened up, I applied and got the job with quant equity team at the same company.
Oh, that's amazing. I learned a lot from you about internship, studying. And by the way, guys, at the moment, Adiya is in United States, and it's morning. So I think all of us should appreciate that she connected. I'm really happy to see you almost in person. So guys, if you have questions.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, Biba. I mean, it's great. I'm very happy for you guys that you have some financial exposure while being at school, because I don't know about now, but back then the university wouldn't provide any coursework in finance. So I would say read good books. When you read good books, you get to know more start reading good journals like the Wall Street Journal, or like The Economist, right? It's a great journal to follow. Like watch good movies because they also teach you about something, and actually good movies are based on good books. There is this author that I wanted to suggest. His name is Michael Lewis. So he wrote a lot of books about finance, about investment world. So, I mean, if you have leisure time, just give it a try. Maybe you will like it. One of the books that I really love is called Flash Boys. So it's about high frequency algorithmic trading, how it started back in 2007, I think, before the GFC, the global financial crisis. But yeah, it was great meeting you guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow up.
Okay, thank you, Adiya. I hope we'll be able to see you in person, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yes.
It's very complicated now because of the COVID. I don't know when is the next time I'm going back to Kazakhstan, but yeah, I hope everything goes well for all of you guys. Good luck with school and everything.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. See you. So, guys, it's already over 7:30, and now I'll give a word to our next guest, Adlet Kamzinov. Yes.
Hey guys. Hope you can see me and hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I hope you guys appreciate my background. I was trying to find a cool one.
It's very cool.
Yeah, thanks guys for invitation, and I really appreciate your time, guys, for joining on Friday. It's evening, and I'm pretty sure you guys have a much more fun stuff to do. But yeah, really great that you guys spend time on this, and I appreciate you joining. Hopefully, this will be helpful for you. It's not about me, or it's about you guys. So hopefully, I'll add some value.
So you're also alumni of Nazarbayev University. Can you tell us about your journey?
Yes, sure. So I was a first graduate of NU. So I graduated in 2015. My major was economics. So I chose economics, and then I joined foundations program, and I already kind of I wanted to do economics degree, and that's what I also studied during foundations. And then yes, I graduated in 15, and I also got a minor in political science and international relations. That was for sure like an interesting field for me, so I was just excited and do some of the courses, and it came up that it was enough to gain some minor degree, so that was a good thing. I think like overall experience in NU was very interesting because it was a brand new university, right? So it was cool to be studying in a small groups at the beginning. At least there were only 500 students, right, that we joined in at the beginning. Then obviously new classes joined, but it was super fun, and everyone felt super connected with each other because we knew literally each of us like in faces, by names. That was a good side. I think it was also great because we had an access to all the professors. Like the groups were super small, so we had like a more exposure. You could ask professors much more questions. There was more attention from their side as well. But I think as everywhere, like in the world, in every situation, there are also some cons because it was again like a brand new university. So I think obviously the student culture was not at the level that it is right now. You guys have lots of student clubs, like the campus has developed so much. Like when we visit university now, we are impressed. Like we were dreaming, guys, about like having a cinema, having a sports center with the pool, so skywalk. So you guys should be pretty privileged and happy to use it, but it's again, it's well deserved. So that's a good thing. And I think maybe another drawback was that some of the courses were not super set yet, right? So we were kind of a pilot group, and foundations was run on us. Like there were some drawbacks, maybe they changed them afterwards. We were also the first one who get to the bachelor's classes, right? So yes, there were some difficulties, but overall, like I'm very happy to finish this university, and I feel super competitive, like in Kazakhstan and outside of Kazakhstan for sure.
Yes, it is good to note that Adlet is one of the 380 first graduates of Nazarbayev University. So in first year, there was only 380 graduates. And I'd like to ask, was your choice of major conscious? Were you determined?
No, for sure that was because I had an option to go to Bolashak as well, right? Because at my year, like during 2010, the Bolashak was still open for bachelors. So I had a chance and I actually got admitted to some of the universities in the US. But the degree I would get there was more math focused. So I would get like a actuarial science degree or like more math related degree, which is awesome. But I wanted to be more specifically focused on economics. So I saw like NU has an economics degree, so, and it seems like, you know, it's a brand new university. It's free, so you don't have to pay money. And lots of my friends also decided to join this university, so I kind of believed in it and I joined. So I would say for sure, yeah, the major selection for me was a conscious one. I always saw myself like working in a finance sphere or maybe an economic sphere. Obviously, I didn't know exactly the company or exactly the job I would want to do, and this is, I think, normal. If you guys don't know now exactly what you want to do, this is perfectly fine, so don't be stressed. But I think overall, like, you need to know the sphere, right, that you want to work in. So for me, yeah, I knew what I want to join. And but again, I think it's fine even if you pivot, if you decide to pursue another degree after NU, or, you know, you try to do a master's in another sphere. Again, as long as you don't try it, you never know. So it's good to try new things. And as long as you find the sphere that you like, I think you guys should be good.
Weren't economics lectures too theoretic in Nazarbayev University?
For sure they were. I agree. I mean, if you look at the courses, right, that we took, it was like intermediate, micro, macro, econometrics. They're very focused and very technical courses, right? So, but I think, guys, when you think about the main benefit that you gain from university, you shouldn't think about like the core knowledge itself, right? You are getting much more in terms of the soft skills, I would say, and plus hard skills, as always. But like, I think the main benefit that and that's my personal opinion, right? So maybe you would agree with me, but like, what you gain mostly is like after university, you are able to digest a lots of information, right? You're able to digest the information, which is kind of different sources, different reliability, but you're able to critically think about those, exclude which is kind of a trashy information, and then focus like what's really the case, right? And then you can use this information to form your opinion, to make an argument, you know, to make a step forward. So I think that's the main skill that you guys will learn. So yes, I'm not using econometrics or microeconomics in my job, but the understanding foundations of economics, I think it's key for everyone. It doesn't matter where you work, like in finance degree or sphere, or you work like, you know, in another sphere, right? And you don't touch in economics. I think understanding basic economics is the key, because when you understand how the market operates, right? When you understand the forces of such a basic forces like supply and demand, you just understand how overall the market works, right? You know the effect from any of the market activities, how it can impact you, right? So if you take example of the oil prices, right? What we see what we see right now is a huge drop down, right? From in the oil price. This is all again driven by some politics. I mean, it's not a free market, right? It's a cartel, but still, it's kind of forced by the forces of supply and demand, right? This has directly impact on the budget of Kazakhstan, right? It has directly impact on the foreign exchange, right? Inside Kazakhstan. So like, I mean, just connecting those dots and understanding the broader picture, that's what you guys will probably get from economics degree or any other degree. So that's probably my answer.
So how was your student life, and did you do any extracurricular activities?
Yeah, it's a good question. To be honest, like I was not a super active student outside. And this is actually what I really regret, because I think it's super fun to be active in students community and like overall in students life. I was a member of some of the clubs. I was a member of like, I think a finance club, and I think I was maybe a member like of a debate club. But again, like I was a super active member. So the guys were not super happy with me as a member. But my advice would be to be active. Yes, guys. I was more focused on GPA, and I think it's played out for me well. But just having like extra activities, doing something on CV, which would be always a benefit for employer because they look at it, right? And plus gaining some soft skills, right? Because whenever you manage the club or whenever you actively participate in the club, you guys get more of a soft skills, right? So you're very you are very good at organizing different events. So I think there is much more than what you get from social club. So I'll encourage everyone. But what related to me, no, I was not super active there, which I, as I said, I regret sometimes.
So you said you worked hard on your GPA. Did it matter after graduation?
I mean, I think for sure it does matter. I wouldn't say like it matters as much as everyone thinks.
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, having a good GPA is always a huge plus, right? It's a huge plus whenever you decide to go to academia sphere, if you apply for master's, for PhD, for MBA maybe. It's a big plus if you apply for a job as well, right? I mean, employers sees the GPA, they see like a high score, especially like from NU, which everyone knows now. So it's for sure like it's a positive thing, right? But is it the critical thing? I don't think so. Employers, they see how you perform your job, right? They see how you behave yourself during the interviews, right? They see much more than like, are you able to read the book? You know, maybe learn it and then repeat it on the work paper, right? That's not the case, right? So I would say it's important, but like I wouldn't like overestimate it, right? So like if your GPA is not super high, I wouldn't say like, you know, your life is over and you will not get a good job. No, that's not the case. But it's always good. And I think key here will be trying to find a balance, guys. So trying to find a balance so that you still get a good academic life, like you get a good grades, right? You have a good GPA, which is competitive. But at the same time, you're very active outside as well, which is again, a huge plus for your CV and your own skills.
What was your plan after graduation? Did you have any plans?
I had different things in my mind, right? So I was potentially considering, should I do a master's degree? Should I continue my studies? Or should I go to the job market, right? I think the one thing that influenced me a lot was the fact that I got a job offer from KPMG. So this is the firm that I worked at the beginning before joining GE. So I had the offer already in November, right? Before graduation. So I had like 9 months already. I had already an offer. And this, I think, influenced me a lot. And then when I think about master's degree, again, this is my personal opinion, but when I think about masters, I think the main benefit from the master's degree is like you want to do a career in academics. So you want to do a professor, you want to be a professor, right? You want to gain later maybe PhD, or if you want to get more skills, hard skills, I mean, and this is really, you think this will benefit you and make you more competitive in the job market, right? So maybe you will learn additional things, right? So for example, you'll learn some coding and this will be connected to your finance knowledge, right? Or this will help your promotion, right? So these are the main benefits that I see personally from masters. At that time, I thought for me personally, it would be a bit of waste of time, specifically for those guys who know how big fours work, right? When you like, it's very important to get experience there, right? So you grow there year after year. So in that sense, when I thought about it, I could go for a master's and then come back, but I would basically lose a year, which again, in my personal case, didn't work that well. But I know lots of folks who did their masters, who came back or stayed outside of Kazakhstan and got a really good job and enjoying what they do. So I would say like it's just my personal view.
So you didn't consider masters. How did you end up getting into financial management program of General Electric?
Yeah, so I think maybe just to give you a high background, like what FMP is, right? So as I said, like I first joined KPMG, I spent 1.5 years there, and then I took an offer from General Electric company, GE, and I joined Financial Management Program, right, which stands shortly as FMP. So FMP is a 100-year plus program. It's a leadership program, which is run in GE. So the main goal of this program is to actually kind of raise and train a new leaders in finance sphere for General Electric, right? So the structure of the program is that you have 4 assignments, which are 6 months long, and you can work in different GE businesses. You can work in different countries, so you can travel outside, and you can also work with different managers and with different teams, right? So you're kind of gaining again some hard skills, soft skills, plus there is also a portion that you study. So you take some courses, you have to pass some exams. So it's a really entry-level program which brings a new leaders in finance for GE. So that's kind of the main goal.
Here among our audience, we have civil engineers, biologists, and many other majors. So I'd like to ask, who can apply to FMP? Can some historian or sociologist apply to FMP?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say there is no need for past experience for sure. And I don't think they look a lot at the kind of the degree that you got, right? It's more important, like, again, what kind of skills you set, what you want to achieve, right? And I have a lots of friends who are not in Kazakhstan. So unfortunately, I was the only one as an FMP member in Kazakhstan, but like I have lots of colleagues outside of the world, which kind of were applying as well to FMP, and they studied a lot as well, right? So their experience was that some of them were engineers, actually. Some of them were mechanical engineers. Some of them were civil, and they still kind of applied if they wanted to be in the finance sphere, right? So I wouldn't say like the degree is super important and key to kind of get into that program.
Did you apply to international selection or regional?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the way it worked before, right, when I joined it was a regional selection. So I was part of the Europe region, and within that there was a region called Russia and CIS, right? And usually they would hire only people from Russia. And then in 2017, they decided actually to run a pilot and also get a first FMP member from Kazakhstan. So it was obviously a very competitive process with lots of interviews, tests. But eventually they selected one person. I was lucky enough to get in. But the program itself is a pretty global one, right? So I kicked off in Kazakhstan. I worked for two rotations. So basically for 1 year in Astana office of GE. But then I kind of went outside, right? I would always have trainings like in Budapest or in Florence. And then my rotations were like in London or in Cincinnati, which is the city in the US. So I would say like the program itself is a global, but the selection was regional based. I think it changed a lot now, basically mostly driven with the fact that GE as a company got a bit smaller. So there is a less of a regional presence now, both I would say in Russia and also in Kazakhstan, unfortunately. But I think you can still apply to a European program, or maybe sometimes if there is an opening in Russia, you can also apply there and you can pace it. But obviously it's a bit tougher to get in right now, especially like if you don't have a visa, right? If you're applying for European program, I mean, visa is always a question and it's a pain. Plus, I mean, with COVID, it's much more difficult to travel now. So, but I mean, I would encourage you guys to pace it, to look at the careers.ge.com website to see like opportunities. Opportunities are always there. It's only a matter of applying, tracking them, and then like, passing some interviews and tests. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, guys, FMP program is one of the most prestigious programs in corporate finance. So if you have any specific questions, don't be shy and ask Mr. Adlet. It's how was your average day at FMP? What did you do, and what kind of assignments you were given?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, FMP overall is, I would say, 90%. I mean, it's a proper job, right? So you have a manager, you have a team, you have your full responsibilities, right? You have a full scope that you have to deliver, right? And you have a manager who's kind of managing this and asking you for those deliverables. So I think my experience and my daily kind of routine would really depend on the type of assignment I had. Maybe if we pick the one, right, as an example, and like which was the favorite one, it was actually an assignment in London. I was part of the EFS team, which is Energy Financial Services team. So what I did in that rotation, I was managing a portfolio, right? And we were trying to find the solutions for debt and equity finance to finance our deals, right? So for example, GE would sell a gas turbine, right, to Iraq government. I mean, these gas turbines, they cost a lot of money. They cost 300, 500 million, right? Iraq government may not have this money available, right? They may not have like a cash really available for payers like at one moment, right? Which is fine. So that's why we have this team, the EFS team, who kind of works with financial institutions. They work with our internal businesses, and they try to find a solution in terms of finance. We try to find debt equity solutions. We work with different finance institutions, commercial banks, I mean, EBRD, World Bank, and we try to find those people who will be interested, right, to lend some money to Iraqi government so that they can purchase our turbine and pay us money, right? Which would kind of kill a goal of two, right? We would have sold the turbine, and then, I mean, the government and the country would get electricity, right? Which is super important again for the people. Now, my daily job would be like from mostly 9 to 7, I would say. Like it would be mostly meeting with my team, pacing some of the deals that we have in our pool, updating some of them like in our tracker. So like just pacing some opportunities. I think the cool project that I really enjoyed working on was actually the project in Kazakhstan, which I actually worked on when I was in Kazakhstan, my first rotation in Astana office. So the project is called Badamsha. So this is actually, you can Google it, guys. It's a new wind farm that we actually recently opened. This is done with a partnership with Eni company. Eni is an Italian company who extracts oil generally, but now they started to focus also on renewables. So I was working on this project, which is kind of funny, right? And I was kind of drafting a proposal for a CEO of GE Renewables business. So firstly, they consider this opportunity. They go and invest and actually build a wind farm in Kazakhstan. And from second standpoint, I was given kind of a short summary of who we'll be working with, right, in Kazakhstan, which are the companies you guys know a lot, right? Tigok, BI Group. So kind of giving a short summary and overview. Who are they, right? Who are managing this company? What are their ratings? Can we trust them? Blah, blah, blah. So it was super fun. And that was kind of the main project job I did every day.
I think that your listing looks like you need some expertise. Did you have some prior expertise before joining FMP?
I mean, I had an experience, right, in doing external auditing in KPMG. And I think audit is a good starting position because you learn how financial statement is working, right? You know how balance sheet and P&L are connected, right? So you know the basic of accounting. And without knowing accounting, you can't be a good finance manager, right? I mean, you have to understand how debit and credits work, right? So for sure, there were some fields that I didn't know, right? Debt and equity financing, I had zero knowledge about them. I wouldn't say even now, right? After spending a rotation, which was 6 months long, I'm an expert. No way. But I mean, first of all, there is a team, right, who supports you. There is a manager who is always willing to support. There are lots of sources available online and offline as well. So I would say like from more accounting perspective, understanding general like corporate finance, I think KPMG helped me. Experience in KPMG helped me a lot. But for sure, like, I mean, FMP is still a learning program. So I learned a lot while I was doing things like with my hands as well. So I would say it's a mix. Yeah.
As you finished FMP, what kind of prospects did you have?
Yeah, so generally FMP, right, is a 2 years program. So the goal is to raise kind of people and then kind of introduce them to kind of a core finance roles, right, which are available in GE. So I could go and took a job within GE, and it could be outside of Kazakhstan as well. And I could, for example, continue my job in London, right? So I could potentially join the team and do the job I was doing, which is, I mean, it's awesome opportunity, but there is also an opportunity to join the program, another level program, right? So like kind of step higher, which I'm currently in, which is called corporate audit staff. So this is the group, which is kind of internal audit / advisory consulting function for GE. And again, is to build a more senior leaders, I would say there. So usually CAS graduates would get a more senior job than you would get as FMP. And I mean, more senior CAS graduates, they would usually be rolled off as CFOs or senior finance managers again within the businesses. So when I thought about my perspective personally, I thought it makes sense for me to join another leadership program that would again give me a much more higher set of skills. I would say exposure within GE as well, and having a connection. In addition, I wanted really to travel outside as well. So this program allows me again to travel. So I have again different assignments. So I had some reviews like I was based in Boston, I was based in Budapest, we were based in Cincinnati, in a small city called Schenectady, which is in New York State. And this is actually when the whole COVID started. I actually have to go fly home, and now I'm based out of home, so working remotely as everyone GE does right now. But hopefully again I can start traveling soon. So for me, like, it was a 2 directions, and I chose to join this another leadership program.
So you worked as an auditor both in General Electric and KPMG, and in both places you worked more than a year. Could you tell us how does work of auditor differ in these two places?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and it differs a lot, right? So in KPMG, you're doing financial external audit. So you come to the third party independent company, and you have to audit their financial statements, right? And sign at the end, sign off that their financial statement doesn't contain any huge risk, right? So there is no significant misstatements. And you as an auditor, you're comfortable with the numbers, right, that the company presents to the whole market. So that's the main goal. Now, it's not working perfectly, unfortunately, especially like in our region. Ideally, auditors should only come and really get the financial statement and then do their procedures, right? So they have to test some controls, they have to do some substantive testings, and they have to sign off on this one. Unfortunately, our companies in Kazakhstan right now, they're not kind of yet developed so as of now, so they don't even know how to properly kind of, collect and draw the financial statement, right? So auditor needs to himself go and really kind of build by piece by piece a financial statement and then audit it, right? So you lose a lot of time. Now, what I do now in GE is a lot different, right? So I don't audit financial statements because, again, KPMG are there, Deloitte are there, they do their own job, right? We are more like an internal function, right? More like auditors/advisors. So we go to different GE businesses, right? So for example, currently I'm in GE gas power business, which is mostly produce like huge gas turbines, right? Which I mean, pump up all electricity. Now, what we do there, we audit a process, we audit a sphere, a field, and then we find potential gaps, right? Which can be risky for our company. It can be risky from both financial perspective. So we may be having some, again, issues with the finance, maybe over-recognizing revenue. We may be having some operational problems, right? So for example, we should be delivering gas turbine to our customers in 90 days, according to the contract, but we actually do that in 120 days. So we actually now have to pay fines, right? Which are not good. Nobody wants to pay a fine. So we have to come up with a solution and really advise people like what they can do to help the business. And again, we are treated a bit differently, right? Because we are in place of GE. So there's much more support within GE in place as well. And it's much more focused on process and people, which I personally, again, find much more attractive and interesting as well.
What are the prospects of being auditor? Will it be automated?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a big room for automation, but I think again you have to draw a line, right? What can be automated and what cannot be. Mm-hmm. I think the is both internal audit / consulting, external audit consulting, maybe less consulting, but external audit, it can be automated for sure. And I think that's exactly what will be done in the next 10 years. But I think the job itself will not go anywhere. There are still lots of subjective, questions and items. You still need to have a proper discussion, right? And you have to take some decisions. You have to take some assumptions. There need to be a clear rationale. For example, if we take a reserve, right? So the company has some liabilities, right? And we consider that 50% of those liabilities actually will not be collectible, right? Because, for example, our counterparty is about to be bankrupt, right? So we propose the business to have a book reserve of 30% of the total balance of liabilities. Now, I mean, the robot or IT tool cannot do that for you, right? There needs to be assumptions, there needs to be subjectivity, they have a proper discussions, they have like a proper external test maybe done. So this will for sure stay. The same will be true for internal auditors or consultants. Again, there's a lot that then where human efforts are really needed. And for me personally, again, I don't think I'll be an auditor forever. I don't think this is the field I see myself. This is, again, a leadership program. So I see myself graduating for the program maybe in a year, maybe in a 4-year, depending, again, how senior I can go in the program. But eventually it's really go back to corporate finance with the set of skills I will be able to get from that program, and then do more like a core corporate finance. So that's how I see my career progressing.
Does quantitative finance interest you? Is it quite popular nowadays?
Which one?
Quantitative finance.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very interesting sphere, and like you see how much now, I mean, the sphere and the world develops, right? So there is much more of automation, right? But plus there is much more expectations, right, from the finance as an employee, as in a function. I mean, now if I go back time to my bachelor's degree, right, I wouldn't probably do a minor in political science. I would probably do a master's in computer science, because now you guys know how to code, right? You have to be competitive. I mean, if you look at the jobs around now available, right? It's again, it's data analytics, quantitative finance, science, data science, right? So there is much more connection now between finance and IT, coding, you know. So I think it's a very interesting sphere, and that's where exactly I would guys encourage you to look at potentially, because this is where the future lies, right? You need to know how to code, how to analyze lots of data, and how to give your management, right, a solution or a potential improvement, right, in terms of finance. So I would for sure like encourage you guys to do that.
Okay. So time is almost up, and could you give us some advice as a conclusion? Would highly appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. And I don't think like I have a full knowledge, right? So it will be my personal advice and my personal opinion. So like you shouldn't take it for granted, guys. So I mean, what I would encourage you guys is when like you are currently in university. So I would for sure like encourage you guys to focus on your study for sure. I think this should be your priority number one. At the same time, you should look for, I would say, external projects, opportunities outside of NU, right? So, I mean, there are lots of hubs now available. There are lots of groups available right now. So you can go outside and search for interesting internship opportunities. You can go outside and actually apply for some, maybe additional classes. Right? So, I mean, it all depends on you. Now, what you can do as well, you can access Coursera, right? So all of the courses are now available. It's just a matter of accessing them, right? Having a passion and really encouragement to do them. So I would really, as a previous speaker said, I would really encourage reading books as well. I think reading books is actually opens your mindset. So you look more external. It opens your mindset. You start to see different things differently, right? So, plus, I would encourage you guys to travel. I know this is super difficult now, especially like during COVID. But again, traveling as much, maybe applying for some opportunities within NU, maybe outside of NU. I mean, NU provides lots of internships, right? We as a group, we were lucky to go to Wisconsin-Madison to spend some time there. So again, I would just encourage you guys to be active as much as you can. Look for opportunities because they are there, and apply and to see the world as much as you can. And obviously, I mean, build your network. You have now lots of graduates, right, available. You can find them easily on LinkedIn. So please free again to reach out, ask questions. Everyone would be happy to help. So yeah, that's kind of my 5 cents.
Thank you very much. As this is our first online webinar, we had some troubles and issues. I think everything went well, and I believe that your advice and experience was heard by our students, and hope everyone finds good use of it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it was helpful, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Thank you, guys, and wish you good luck with the studies, with the jobs search, continuing studies. So again, please feel free to reach out if any questions, advice is needed. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye.
Oh, thank you, Nurmuhammad. Okay, guys, thank you. This was our intention to help freshmen and other students to dive into this semester, because being freshman is already hard, and you're studying online your first semester. I don't know how is it, but hope we can be helpful to you, if you have any questions about economics major or math major, or any questions about specializations or club, feel free to write me, Nurai, and others in KFSA. So, okay, I shall finish the webinar. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you, guys.